Just spoke with Andrew Cuomo. I just spoke with Ron DeSantis. We're thinking about certain things. Some people would like to see New York quarantined because it's a hot spot. New York, New Jersey, maybe one or two other places. Certain parts of Connecticut quarantined. I'm thinking about that right now. We might not have to do it, but there's a possibility that sometime today we'll do a quarantine.
Oh my gosh, thank God. Hey. No, they've shut everything down. Everything. Lost my job. They don't know when we're gonna go back. No, it's looking like it's getting really scary. This guy doesn't know what he's fucking talking about. No, I'm sorry too. Really, it doesn't matter anymore. I love you too. What? I'm coming. No, I'm coming. No, I'm coming. Yo, my neighbor will give me some mask and gloves. I'm coming. All right.
When the world is falling down, I'll find my way back to you. The sun will always shine. Even made friends with the moon. Dark spaces you may I'll stand right beside you. Melody, sing with me. I wanna keep you next to me. What is on that sweet, sweet mind? My love. My love, my love, 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 my love.
Yeah. You're now entering the mode of the Notorious B.I.G Smalls, Junior Mafia Clique, representing. This one going out to Brooklyn. Y'all know what time it is. It's going out to all the gangsters, all the pimps and players, hoes and bitches. Y'all know what time it is. So this is what I want y'all to do. I want y'all to grab y'all Dutch Masters and y'all White Owls and y'all Phillies. Get you a fat sack, a pint of Hennessy, and lay back. Gonna do this one for my man, Mr. C, representing all day, every day. And all you other tape niggas and bootleggers, stay in the house, cause Brooklyn got this shit locked down. So anytime you're ready, Mr. C, we gonna get hardcore on these homos.
Hey out there in Facebook land. This is Bassy Bob. I'm broadcasting down here from New Orleans, Louisiana. It's a real thrill to do this show. I'll just tell you a little bit about the inspiration behind it. I guess about a week ago, I was actually on the back end of recovering from the virus down here. And somebody up in New York posted a video of it, what sounded like a couple thousand people singing all the lyrics to Juicy on top of a building. Everybody out on their balcony banging pots and pans and, you know, just sort of uniting together around Notorious B.I.G, who is probably for all time one of the official leaders of the social movement of Brooklyn, New York. And at that point, I had a brief conversation with Jackson, who's one of my technology partners, one of my dear friends from Asheville, North Carolina, about the idea of, doing a kind of video podcast where some of the stories which I've sort of told in the studio to various clients I've had over the last 30 years, I thought might be something worthwhile for people to hear. And I thought it might even be more important to bring in some really extraordinary, talented people. Today, my guest is Chucky Thompson, who I spent years with in the trenches with Puff Daddy, making certainly some of the most important records of my career. But for some of you who, are friends of friends who maybe don't know who I am, my name is Bassy Bob. I'm a producer, I'm a mixer, I'm a technology developer. And I spent the last 30 years in New York City making records. And I wanted to sort of start out the show just talking about two concepts which are really important to me. One is friendship, and the other is not giving up. So this really is a story from the very beginning of my career when I was a gopher. I wasn't even an assistant in a recording studio. I was basically just running errands for the people that I was working for. And my roommate at the time, Graham Hawthorne, had started doing some drum programming for this guy, Fred Czar, who was the keyboard player for Madonna. And Graham said to me, you should work with this guy because this guy's working with Madonna. And this was 1987. So at the time, Madonna was the biggest star in the world. So I started going every Saturday and Sunday all the way down to like Avenue U in Brooklyn to Fred's basement in his mother's house, where he was working on this record with his ex-girlfriend from high school, Betty, who was, I think, the worst singer I'd ever heard in my life. She was terrible. And I just kept going every Saturday and Sunday. After about 3 months, Graham was my roommate at the time. I was like, Graham, I can't take this shit anymore. I got to get out of here. I can't continue working on this. This girl's terrible. Graham was like, Bob, you got to stick it out, man. Fred's working with Madonna. You never know what's going to happen. You should definitely hang in there. And so I did. I continued to go and work on these terrible sessions. After about 6 months, Fred calls me up. He says, Bob, I got this 14-year-old girl who's got a development deal with Atlantic Records. Her name's Debbie Gibson. Will you come over to my house and mix this demo for me for the label for $50? So I did. I went to his house on a Saturday, mixed the song Only in My Dreams. Little did I know, 6 months later, I'd be at the corner bistro in the West Village with Graham having a burger, and I hear this song coming out of the jukebox. And I go over to the jukebox, I'm standing in front of the jukebox, and I'm hearing my mix with like this pan that I'd done on the clap going back and forth on the jukebox. And I called up Fred and I was like, Fred, I think I heard Only in My Dreams on a jukebox. And he's like, Bob, it's number 4 with a bullet on Billboard. I was like, what's Billboard? Fred's like, Bob, go to a newsstand and get Billboard magazine. So I did. I walked a couple blocks down Greenwich Avenue, went to the newsstand, opened up Billboard to the middle page, and there it is. Debbie Gibson, Only in My Dreams, number 4 with a bullet. So at that point, I got fired from my job at the studio and instantly promoted to being a freelance recording engineer, which I didn't even really know what that meant. And I also had almost no skills, but I had the opportunity to get jobs at that point because I had a hit record under my belt. So I guess the lesson there is like, one, I was extraordinarily lucky to have Graham, and I still have Graham as a friend. Graham Hawthorne is an amazing drummer. He's played with Paul Simon, David Byrne, some of the biggest bands in the world. And we've continued to be friends after almost 34 years at this point. So I think even more than fame and success in the business, which, I mean, it comes and goes and is kind of fleeting, friendships are something that really endures. And also, I think the lesson that I gained from Graham was that sometimes you need to stick with something even though it doesn't seem very viable, because if you give up, you'll never know whether you're going to actually have an opportunity to be successful. So now I'm gonna fast forward about 5 or 6 years to the early '90s. When I was walking down 54th Street, I was doing a lot of work at the Hit Factory at that time, and I ran into another good friend, Tony Maserati, who was like a fellow recording engineer in New York. And Tony says, what are you doing right now, Bob? I was like, I'm not doing much. He said, I just met this guy named Puff Daddy. And apparently he just got fired from his job at Uptown Records. I guess he told Andre Harrell that all of his mixes were whack and everything that he was doing with the music was terrible. And Andre punched him in the face and kicked him in the street and told him that he would never work again. To which Puffy responded by forming Bad Boy Productions. And at that point, Puffy had a relationship with Clive Davis. And I remember the day that Puffy put on his Brooks Brothers suit and went and got $7 million from Clive to start Bad Boy Productions. And the first thing that Puffy did was he bought the rights to Mary J. Blige, Jodeci, Biggie, and I believe maybe a couple other records. Chucky can correct me on that one. But that introduction from Tony was probably one of the most important things that ever happened in my life. And it led to about a 10-year run of working on some of the most important and genre-changing records in hip-hop. So with that, I would really, really love to bring on my dear friend and musical colleague and one of the most incredible producers in the world, Chucky Thompson. Woo-wee!
Okay, now I'm in. What's going on, brother?
Hey, Chucky, how you doing?
I'm good, man. Hanging in there. Yes,
So, I think that one of the other things that was the inspiration for this this podcast idea was I have collected some stories, kind of archetypal stories in the studio, and this particular story was about your song. As soon as I get home. With Faith Evans.
Right.
And this story starts about 3 o'clock in the morning. I remember that you were in the studio earlier that day, running through the song on the piano with Faith, if I remember that correctly.
You brought the first part of the story.
and then I think you went home. And so I ended up cutting all of the vocals for that song probably between, 11 p.m. and 3 a.m. And I think at that time, Biggie was on his promotional tour, which lasted about 8 months for Juicy, and Craig Mack for Flavor of the Year, the Big Mac promotional tour. And I think at that time, both of those records were vying for the #1 and #2 spot on the charts for about 40 weeks. It just seemed like you couldn't walk around anywhere in Brooklyn or anywhere without Juicy or Flavor of the Year bumping out of the back of somebody's trunk.
Exactly.
So I'm just finishing up the vocals with Faith when Biggie walks in this huge, red leather shearling coat, And I was like, hey, Biggie, what's up? And it was so nice to see him. And, he walked out into the studio to see Faith, and Faith did not seem particularly happy to see him. And I think that's because Biggie was up to some extracurricular activities on the road.
Always, man, always.
That she was not happy with.
Yeah.
And I think Biggie was just trying to smooth it out, make things cool, but I could tell that things were starting to get hot.
Right.
So I muted the microphone because I didn't want to, when you're in the studio, you don't want to listen in on people's personal business when they're on the phone or having a relationship dispute.
Sure. But
I do remember Biggie getting on his knees, and kind of like, sort of like preaching his fealty to Faith. And I think at some point it worked because they kind of made up and they took off. And Puffy had called me maybe a half hour earlier and said, listen, I want you to do a rough mix of whatever you've got from Faith tonight, which I did. And I think I just made a CD of it and I left it in Puffy's office. And I went back into the studio maybe 2 days later and I did a much more extravagant mix of the song. with like more reverb and more moves and all of that stuff.
Right.
Well, that's not the mix that Puffy used.
Exactly.
The mix that he used was the 30-minute rough, you know. So it got me thinking about this idea of like timing and vibe. You know, that like sometimes the vibe is more important than the overthought thing. I don't know. Did you have a say in that?
Man, not in that part. You know, for me, it was crazy because this is the story of how it all started. Like you caught the piano version because I played it on the piano. This is a song I made up when I was 16 years old.
Oh, get out of here!
You know, me and a friend of mine, a guy named Curvin Cotton, we used to get together, and I was into jazz a lot. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
of course.
That progression was a progression I used to play all the time. And I was just in there on the piano playing, and Faith heard it, and she ran in there and went nuts.
Oh,
so fast forward, you know, I'm still living in DC at the time, and you know, I used to come past the studio before I leave. You know what I mean? So my thing was okay. I got a couple hours out for a little bit, then I'm gonna catch my flight and be out. Yeah, Puff called and said, "Hold up, man, what's that record that it's a song that you played for Faith on the piano? She's driving me nuts, man. You got to do it before you leave, right?" So this is the little bit of time I have before my flight is out. And I'm leaving out of LaGuardia, so you already know what it is.
oh my God.
I kicked it with the engineers. I said, "Look, man, I need y'all help. How much time do I need to get in the car and be on my way to LaGuardia?" Like, that was my focus. Right? So they said, "Look, you need to be in the car by 6. You should be all right?" So then the clock starts. So I'm up there. I'm just like, okay. I didn't even have a song. It was just this one part that I was playing. So I had to come up with a verse and come with the intro. You know what I mean? Bob, you seen me work. I'm on the MPC. I'm piecing sequences. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
parts down. You know what I mean? Man, I wasn't worrying about that song. So then at the end of the day, I came up with enough. You know, we were working so much that it was just, you know, it was a vibe that we were already on. So
Right, yeah.
I continued the vibe, pretty much finished the song structure out because I knew I was going to come back to it. And I left. And guess what? I never came back to it. This is the crazy part.
Is that the same day that I did the vocals with her?
Listen, man, those types of songs always have these types of stories. You know what I'm saying?
Always, yeah.
I can hear your part, for you to hear my part. I mean, but you got to understand where Puff's brain was at that time. He knew when it was right. He had the right people around. You know, we could do it like that. Everybody can't do that. But for some reason, because we were together all the time, we could. And that's a true story, man. That record, she called me that night. She called me after she worked with you and played me the hook. She said, "Chuck, you got to hear this hook."
Oh, you didn't hear the hook?
I didn't hear nothing. She played me. I had to call her answer machine back to listen to it. And I heard over the phone. But in my brain, I'm like, okay, well, that's good for the round one. You know what I mean? Next thing I know, it's done.
And it's out.
Puff, well, when can I go back and finish? He like, finish. It's finished. Okay. But I guess that's that. You know what I mean? Because he was the final say. You already know that. So he said it was done. You know, I learned a lot from that dude, man. You know what I'm saying? Moving like that. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a thing that Puffy has, an instinctual kind of confidence. Maybe it's kind of a Scorpio thing, but he's very much a gut kind of producer in that sense.
Yeah.
That if he feels it and he knows it, then he doesn't hesitate. He rolls with it.
That's it. He definitely represents the people, you know.
So we should definitely shout out Chucky, D. Angelette, Rashad Smith, Mario Winans, Tony Maserati, Axel Niehaus, Rich Trevally. I mean, I'm probably missing a lot of people. Of course, Puff, you know, Biggie, Faith, Mary J. It was a real family environment.
Man, I would say in the last week, I've talked to about 80% of the people you just mentioned. You know what I'm saying?
You know,
I talked to Sean earlier today. Me and Mary is doing something right now. You know what I'm saying? Faith,
That's
talking to
that's
her all the
incredible.
time, her and Stevie, you know?
And you know, this Clark sisters documentary that just came out, like, you know, like Anderson Paak's son is watching it, and it's like everybody's on this. And you know, I worked on an early Clark sisters record with Professor Bob Sadin
Okay.
back in the day. It was before I met Faith.
Okay.
And then I remember, like, when Faith started coming in as a consultant to basically create those background layers for Mary, which is how she started working with Puffy, was as a background singer. She would always put that secret note in the middle.
Right.
That rub note, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I said to Faith, I said, where did you get this?
Yeah.
Like, where did you get this incredible skill? She said, the Clark sisters. Like, I learned everything that, you know, everything that I know about vocal harmonies from the Clark sisters. And it's just so interesting to now see the Clark sisters sort of emerging into the public view, because, you know,
people don't know. A lot of people don't know.
Gospel music is where all the genius in R&B comes from.
Yeah.
You know, Casey and JoJo are preachers' kids. You know, they like ripped off all these, like, you know, gospel songs from their dad and just changed the lyrics, and suddenly it's fiending.
Yeah, but that's the crazy part with that is that's been going on for a minute. That's been going on since Sam Cooke, and you know.
Yes, exactly. Repurposing gospel for like secular reasons.
You know what I'm saying? Because you can't buy that feeling, man. It's just, you know, you can't buy it. You know.
You can't.
Yeah.
So I wanted to talk with you a little bit about how we first met, because you know I spent a lot of time in D.C. I mean, I was born in New Orleans, but you know, I used to go to One Step Down every Saturday and jam with like Wallace Roney and Lawrence Wheatley and all those, you know, that jazz scene.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I was in that scene. And so when Puffy told me there's this genius coming up for Washington, D.C., and I think that he said that you were also a percussionist and you had played with Chuck Brown or something, which I grew up with.
Yeah. If you ever catch that Go-Go Live at the Capitol Center.
Yes.
Thing that I think it's on YouTube. Some of it is on there, but I'm on the Congos playing with Chuck on that.
I would have to check that out.
Yeah.
So I believe the first song that we worked on together, the beginning of a very long collaboration, was on Mary J. Blige's "My Life" record.
Right.
and it was kind of the replay of my life.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the crazy part with that is, I had that record before I met Puff. I was working on that record as I was in transition to signing my contract. So
get out of here, really?
I was just coming up with stuff, you know. Half of that My Life album was stuff that I had worked on before I met them.
Get out of here, really?
But I was sending Puff to, you know, just sending out tracks, because one track that I sent, you know, out of all of the songs that she was, you know, getting from the producers that worked on the last album and other new producers, she picked that one song, "Be With You." So that was the song that got me a deal with Bad Boy.
Okay.
And the fact that she picked that song, you know, opened the gate. Plus, you know, the relationship with Puff and I was management, you know.
Okay.
So I broke the chain, you know, he brung in someone that you know, got her attention. He just kept going, like, just kept sending her stuff that she was loving everything that I was doing at the time.
Mary was.
A lot of that stuff I was doing before, you know, it was stuff that I was just sending Puff to give him, you know, some idea of the skills that I had, you know.
Like treatments for songs.
Yeah, like Don't Go was done before.
Okay.
My Life was done before. I'm trying to think of what else was done before, but anyway, it was a couple of songs like that. But at the end of the day, you know, that was the beginning of me and hers and his relationship. So we were all meeting at that same time, you know.
Yeah, Mary was just coming out of her contract with Uptown.
Yeah.
And signing to Bad Boy, right?
No. She was still on Uptown. She stayed on Uptown.
Oh, she was still on Uptown. Okay.
Uptown. It's just that Puff. What happened was, even though he wasn't working as an A&R, he still had the budgets, and he still had, you know, access to. So he was using those budgets to work, you know, the relationships and different things. He was smart with it, you know.
So it was Bad Boy Productions. There was no Bad Boy Records at that point.
It was Bad Boy Entertainment, but
Bad Boy Entertainment, right?
Management, right? I signed under the management. But I mean, he was still, responsible for delivering, like, because he was still talking to Andre and still dealing with stuff. So
Right.
we were still responsible for delivering that record. That just was the last project that he had to be responsible for. That one and the Jodeci one.
Yeah.
That Jodeci,
The Diary of a Mad Band. I worked on that record for 6 months.
Right.
Something like that.
You were in Charles Alexander. All y'all was in there.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, shout out to Prince Charles. Absolutely, man.
know
No doubt.
So it was a fun time, man.
It was a fun time. So I think, what do you think, Jackson? Is this a good time to take a commercial break? Jackson's telling us to wait. So I think the way we're gonna do this is we're gonna like drop a little inside commercial, and then after we come back from the commercial, we're gonna have a deeper conversation about the creative process and entrepreneurship in the music business.
Ooh.
All right. I'll see you in 30 seconds, Chuck.
Okay, brother.
Like I said before, Junior Mafia clique, hardcore, representing Biggie Smalls in the house, check it, Biggie Smalls is the wickedest. Niggas say I'm pussy, I dare you to stick your dick in this. If I was pussy, I'd be filled with syphilis, herpes, gonorrhea, chlamydia, getting rid of ya. Got it locked like the penitentiary. Niggas mention me for MC, execution, who you choosing? The whack MC or the black fat MC? Jack Dempsey will start shaking all it's taking. It's some marijuana and I'm making MCs break fast like flapjacks and bacon. Backspins the windmills, who's still the gin drinker? Ill thinker, exploding when the paper hits the ink. Take against the Chronicles, turn the page 666. Holocaust, Big the Merciless. Niggas press their luck in, they get a butt fucking. Straight up the ass, raw dog with the rash, and I don't fuck with the condoms. The condoms is a problem from the AIDS getting sprayed. Diseases, big pleases, MCs across the seas. It's just the way I clutch my prey. Hey, I'm crazy and deranged.
All right, cool. Right here.
Hey. Oh, beautiful. Love it. Okay, so yeah, just tell me when you just count me back in. Okay, so Chucky, so one of the people watching today is one of my dearest friends, Wendy Day from Rap Coalition, who
Cool.
I don't know how much you know about Wendy, but she's a legend in this business. She negotiated Eminem's deal, Twista's deal. She is like one of the most like tireless, hardworking advocates for artist careers and artist rights. And she asked me the question, who was your favorite artist? That's probably a tough question, but who was your favorite artist at that time?
That's an easy question, man. You already know. Notorious
B.I.G, motherfucker. Yeah.
There's never a dull moment, man. You remember every time you saw that big dude, it's a life-changing story attached. You know what I'm saying? So it was always him, man. It's like him outside of the studio. He just was funny. Everybody would think that, he's on this gangster kick and
not at all.
And that, man, he was the big, I mean, everybody has a streak to him. You push him across a line, you never know what you get.
Yeah.
But it's that was the persona. The man was a soft, mushy, marshmallow fun. You know what I'm saying? He was more funny than anything to me. So
yeah, that's what I tell everybody, that like Biggie was such a gentle human being, and I think that like a lot of writers and a lot of actors, he loved the idea of sort of creating this persona, this sort of larger than life gangster. But I remember. I think the first session I did with him was Things Done Changed.
Oh, okay.
That was like the first vocal session I did with him.
Yeah.
But there was another one, which I think was Warning. And it was one of the strangest days I'd ever had, because you know how like you'd have a 6-minute track and then you just put the studio tape machine into loop and it would just wind back and it would play the track again.
Yeah.
Well, Biggie was in the back of the room with like a stack of pizzas and some Snapples and like a whole bag full of nickel bags, just like, cutting up blunts, listening, nodding his head for like 9 hours. He didn't say a word. And I was like, what is
What are
this
we
motherfucker doing? What the
What
hell
are
is he
we
doing?
doing?
He was constructing the entire story in his head. So at one point, he told me to stop the tape, went into the studio, and laid the whole story out in one take. I mean, that is the essence of creative genius. And he had that ethos like Jay-Z of like never writing anything down on paper because rappers would get their notebooks stolen and people would like clip other people's lyrics like, all the time. So he and Jay-Z both wrote all of their lyrics in their heads, which in of itself is it's kind of an amazing thing to think about.
May started doing it.
May started doing it as well, right?
I was talking to him about it. And he was giving me a little bit of how he did it. He said, we'll come up with the second line first. That's the punchline. Then he'll figure out a way to come into the punchline. And you do that like 8 times and you got a whole verse. You know what I mean? So he was explaining to me how they did it. But yeah, Big was, that was a special guy for me,
So what were some of your favorite things that Puffy got you to work on?
Some of my favorite things.
Well, because I know that like you did everything from bring in like full-fledged productions to he would just like have you come in and play bass or address it with some keyboards or just do a little programming on it or whatever.
Well, he brought me in when he was in a relationship with J-Lo, right?
Right. Well, that was the time when the gun got found in the car. I remember that.
This was all before that. This is when he was like, "Yo, I'm done, man. You go in there and fix Hun." He told me to fix Honey, right?
Oh. He did the same thing to me with Pebbles. That's how I ended up working with L.A. Reid.
That was my record too.
L.A. sent like Pebbles up to New York, and we were in the studio doing vocals for like 3 days, and she's like, "I hate this shit. I miss my kids. I want to go back to Atlanta. Will you come back to Atlanta with me and help me finish my record?" Because she had one more record to make for MCA, right? And I ended up staying in L.A. Reid's house and working in the backyard at La Coco, which is like gotta be the most like successful studio built in the closet in the world. Right. Did you ever work down there at La Coco?
I never worked in there, no.
Dude, it was literally twice the size of the console. It was the smallest room. It was like built into the guest house, and that I believe that house is now Usher's house down in Atlanta.
Okay, cool.
I think he bought that from LA. But anyway, so getting back to he put you in the store. He put you in the studio with J-Lo to sort it out because he didn't want to talk to her anymore.
That was my first experience with like auto tune.
Right on.
I had to like, if you listen to that record, I was trying to keep it as natural as possible. Some words we'll do. Some words we need to leave alone. I didn't really like it sounding too. This was all before the real heavy auto-tune stuff came. Yeah. So I was just trying to use it enough to keep her from sounding pitchy and stuff like that. But that was a life-changing situation. I could definitely say that. You know what I mean? I got right in the middle of their relationship with that. But I guess I helped it out for the most part. And he messed it up. On my show, you know what I mean?
Oh man, that's amazing. So what were some of the tracks that were most inspiring for you during sort of the Ready to Die era?
I'm gonna be real, like the way Big Papa came about. I was still living in DC, so I was coming back to New York on the top of the week, like Sunday nights I'll come back and then we'll work for the rest of the week, So I'm and Nasheem was the studio manager. Remember over at the
well, Nasheem also used to carry Puffy's records for his DJ gig.
Man. Nasheem was like my introduction to really learn who Puffy was outside of the paperwork,
Yes.
So he I came in and he had the Isley Brothers looped up, and he said, Puff said to, put something to this. So in my brain, I'm thinking, Big is kind of familiar with the West Coast. And, you know, that Isley Brothers sample, it reminded me of Ice Cube a little bit.
Yeah.
It was a good day. You remember how
Damn
cool,
right, it was a good day.
yeah, how cool that record was. It wasn't like rah. It was like it's a good day. You know what I mean? It's just riding top down. And that was my vibe for Big Pop. I said, you know what? Let me put this West Coast line in there. It was a trick. I just wanted to see what he would do with it. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, so did you put that little whiny synth over there too? Whoa,
because I just wanted to mess around with him because I knew he understood what was happening. Most New Yorkers, to me, at that time, they rep New York. They didn't really,
like beats and rhymes. That's it. No relaxing, no luxury, none of that.
But Puff knew. I mean, but Big knew about Detroit. And he knew about, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
DC, and he knew about a bunch of different places. He knew about Atlanta. I'm not saying Puff didn't know about it, but Puff didn't really rep it like that. You know what I'm saying? He just knew about it enough to understand where the people and the vibes were. But Big would step out and have on a Raiders hat. You know what I mean? So I knew he knew what it was. And for DC, that whole West Coast rap scene was what connected to us. So I was heavy into what was happening with NWA and Dre and stuff like that.
Tupac, right.
Yeah, and in that particular time, it was more of a soulful time. Like, you look at it's always a 20-year turnaround. So the 70s, right? And then in the 90s. So we were doing a lot of 70s funk, that 70s exploitation vibe was all up in Ready to Die. You know what I mean? It was centered in that, If you even remember Jermaine Dupri and how he was rolling, like it was that type of era. So my thing was, okay, I'm gonna mess around and let me just throw this in here and see what he does to this. You know what I mean? It was a joke. Yeah, I came back the next day. Nasheem was like, "Yo, man, gotta hear the hook that Big put on there, man. Yeah, it got cold." And I heard it, and I mean, for Big having this album where he has all of these aggressive hip hop records,
really, really hard records,
for him to come the way he came, he took the bait. You know what I'm saying? He took the bait because that record was so mellow. I took it back home and I played it for a couple of guys, and when I finished playing it, everybody was quiet. So I'm thinking, like, man, is this joint?
Do they not like it?
Man, they said, man, play that. It was crazy to them because it penetrated. It was like still waters run deep. So because it was so mellow, it just hit them in a whole nother gangster vibe. You know what I mean? And Big kept it sexy. Like I'm gonna definitely say this. And there's a certain time in hip hop where it was hip hop females, you know what I'm saying? And they were in the hip hop. They wore you could see which ones were in the hip hop. But then there was also worked at the bank and a woman that worked at, you know what I mean? They wasn't really rocking hip hop like that. Big and Tupac kind of ushered in that sexy with the hip hop, where the girl at the bank is rocking it now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like the Bruce Hornsby joint.
Exactly. And it's like Big Papa was one of those records to help transition. Because now, if you look at it now, it's like everybody's in the hip hop. You know what I mean? There's really no lines drawn to the type of lifestyle. It's just one.
Well, it's the only creative movement that's ever completely overtaken the globe.
Yeah, but
it's hip hop.
It took a lot to get that at. You know what I mean?
It did, but now there are rappers in every country on the planet.
Yeah, but see, even with that, let's look at that. Like when I say it took a lot to get that, we were trying to keep it a secret. It's like if you knew, there were no hip hop books, no hip hop. You go and type in, let me see what hip hop is. Like none of that. You know what I'm saying? That wasn't what
there were no Instagram influencers to show you how to be a hip hop king.
Exactly. And that was the part that was corny. You know what I'm saying? It was a reason why they had those colors around the records they were playing, because they didn't want nobody to know what they were playing. It was a secret.
Yeah.
And once it got to not to say that it's a bad thing that it got to a popular section of it, but then we still had to bring it back in and make it, you got to filter through. Know what is, like, rap is something that's being done. Like, I could take a little girl and have somebody write for her, and she's a rapper. But hip hop is something that's being lived. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's lifestyle. It's a certain feeling that you're gonna get from it, and it's always the new. To me, it's what's new. I don't want to hear 100 Jay-Z albums. I could just deal with the one. You know what I'm saying? So I'm always conscious about who's being innovative in this, or who's taking it to the next level, or taking the, because that's the way I looked at what we were doing, Bob. Like, we were moving the envelope forward. We were doing it in a way where it took it to another zone. I always looked at Mary not just as a singer. She was a movement.
She was, yeah, the queen of hip hop soul.
And then Puff being that innovative thinker too. When I met Big, like, I knew I wanted to sound a bad boy, but it was based on Mary and Big. You know, to be real.
It was. Well, I don't know whether you remember this, but I remember seeing some backlash against Puffy because guys like Timberland and Tribe Called Quest were making very obscure jazz records, like weird Indian samples and, African loops and, an obscure Ahmad Jamal record as like the basis for a record.
Right.
But like Puffy is sampling Juicy Fruit and Between the Sheets and like some of the biggest R&B records of all time. And I think that people misunderstood what he was doing. But I mean, and I can't speak for him, but I think that his creative vision was that he wanted hip hop to be the most popular music on the planet.
But see, you got to understand, like, even for me coming from DC, that was my connection to him and Mary and Big with those records. Now, I don't know what anybody else's lifestyle was coming up in the 70s, but those records that you just mentioned, those were a part of my lifestyle. You know what I mean?
Yeah, almost every day, right?
That my aunts used to throw. Those are the parties that I used to sneak into. Those were part of the parties that, you know what I mean? I learned it was about love. You know what I'm saying? All of those records was centered in love. So that's why it was kind of weird for Big. You know what I'm saying? Here you come with this love record. You know what I'm saying?
In the midst of all this gangster stuff.
But at the end of the day, guess what? I always loved Big for being who he was. He did a record for Michael Jackson, right? You think, you working for Michael Jackson, you would try to change some things up. Yeah, he talking about rolling up on there. You know what I mean? that to me stands for a lot. Like
he wasn't even intimidated by Michael.
You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna still be a gentleman, but I gotta be me. I'm gonna still give you respect, but I gotta be me. And that to me is what artistry is about. It's like cram everything, or you know what I mean? Try to fit everything in a box, because then it's not special to me. Hip hop started from somebody taking a turntable that we know our parents said, "Don't touch that goddamn turntable." Said, I mean, it's terrible that they did it, but they were like, "Man, get out of here, Mom." And they went outside and started a whole culture.
Yeah.
You think about anything that deals with going against, and you write in hip hop. If you don't have that part in it when you're making music, you're making hip hop.
Yeah, it's revolutionary music, and it also has, a history of probably 50 years in the Caribbean of people doing outdoor dance parties.
Man, it all started from records, so it's every record ever.
Yeah.
Right. It's like the Amazon of music, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Get away with everything, Joe.
The encyclopedia of great music.
Yeah, man.
Are we ready for another break, Jackson? Okay, so we're gonna drop a spot from another one of our little associated companies, and in a sec.
Yeah. You're now entering the mode of the Notorious B.I.G. Smalls, Junior Mafia Clique, represent. This one going out to Brooklyn. Y'all know what time it is. It's going out to all the gangsters, all the pimps and players, hoes and bitches. Y'all know what time it is. This is what I want y'all to do. I want y'all to grab y'all Dutch Masters and y'all White Owls and y'all Phillies. Get you a fat sack.
Hi, greetings from New Orleans. My name is Bob Brockman. I'm known in the industry as Bassy Bob. I have mixed and produced many seminal recordings over the course of my career by such artists as Notorious B.I.G, Babyface, Mary J. Blige, Jay-Z, Kanye, Christina Aguilera, Herbie Hancock, Bob Dylan, and many more. I was nominated for 3 Best Engineering Grammy Awards. I won 2 for Christina Aguilera and Kirk Franklin, and I have an Oscar nomination for my work with Faith Hill on Pearl Harbor. So we are launching Based.io. We are looking to change the music industry. Based.io allows artists to negotiate rate cards, terms for use based on territory, time period, and length without the need for third parties. With smart contracts and simple user interface, Base.io lets you know where your music lives and when it's being sampled in real time. Say goodbye to the takedown notices and hello to more money in the pockets of artists, music producers, and music supervisors. It is also the first technology that allows artists to audit services like Apple Music and Spotify to know how many plays, repeats, and shares you have because everything is linked to the blockchain. Hey there, Chucky.
Yes, sir.
So that was an embarrassing moment. Shameless plug for my blockchain company with Jackson that basically fingerprints songs and protects people's copyrights, but instead of takedown notices, it actually sends people an email with an opportunity to license and do business. As well as our licensing and publishing company down here in New Orleans called Musos, which is short for Music One Stop. Music One Stop is like a licensing company that can clear the master and the copyright at the same time.
Oh, dope.
And so shameless, also embarrassing because I was wearing the same shirt when I cut the commercial for Bass. I give people the impression that I've only got one shirt, but I actually have like 3. So, but I just kind of wanted to open up the conversation about the idea of, sort of like following on the moves that Puffy's made over the years, worship, and with sort of the decommodification of music that's happened with the streaming companies, which have really ground down the value of music to almost nothing. With our artists getting like $13 checks is just embarrassing.
Yeah.
Which is not to say that artists didn't, record companies with like endless recoupment never really get a record company either, but there were always streams of income that had tangible value that couldn't be messed with, and publishing was probably, performance were really the 2 main streams that had value. And what I found when I moved down here to New Orleans about 6 months ago is that there were all these amazing artists, some of them legendary, some of them new artists who just moved to New Orleans, who had all this incredible music and no representation. So about 3 months ago, we started Musos sort of as an idea to get all of this incredible music that's happening in front of music supervisors in Atlanta, New York, and Los Angeles. Right. And, we really we really wanted to take our time and build this company up slowly. But right in the midst of starting the company and basically getting all of our contracts together, COVID hit. And suddenly everybody's concerts and tours and local gigs in New Orleans got canceled like in about a week. So, my partners, Andrew Block, who has a studio down here called Neutral Sound, is doing a lot of amazing stuff. I actually met him on an Ivan Neville session when I first moved down here. And we just became best of friends. And then this other guy, John Colbreth, who's a trumpet player with Naughty Professor, but who's also a crack programmer, is great with coding, websites, just business, and just decided to start this sort of production company, label / licensing company.
Cool.
And we basically launched, even though we weren't ready to launch, really in the middle of March when we were supposed to launch in May.
Wow.
And about 70 artists reach out to us in 2 days about the company, because I realized how vulnerable they were to being dependent on live performance. And I don't think that anybody imagined that there would be a time when we'd be talking to each other on Skype or Zoom, and that performances would be happening individually in people's houses, and that Saturday Night Live would be shooting their skits from within people's apartments, which is where we're at.
Right.
So, your thoughts about, because obviously it must depend on the existing model, which is that you're going to give your music away for free to a streaming, and they're going to make 99% of the revenue, and some of it's going to get carved off for the record company to get really nothing. That there have to be other kinds of businesses, other ways to approach the game.
Yeah.
Of being successful in the music business. And I think from down here, we're starting the company more as a service for artists than anything else. But I think that if we help hundreds of artists to become successful, then we will in fact become successful in kind.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's like, but this right here is an example of when a situation is taken away from you, right? And you look at, and this is just speaking as my hip hop brain, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you have to find a way, you have to figure out a way to win, and they're doing a lot of these live streams and like that now. But I would definitely, it's a lot of different platforms now where I've seen producers produce a record and they're all in a different place. You know what I mean? I've seen people record records and they're all in a different place. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I'm just saying at time it's time to look at not what you don't have, but try to figure out how do you maneuver around with what you do have, and for the service that you guys offer, you know what I mean? It's a help. It's a big help, because it's still an outlet. You're able to work with artists that understand the business more than, like that, connected to somebody that understands the business, that can help them understand it a little bit better. To me, it just, it's the grounds for something great,
Yeah. Well, the other company that we call Source Elements, and they have 2 products. One called Source Live, which is just a streaming platform right off your mix bus. So you could do mixes. You could sit in your room and listen to the mix while I'm mixing, and or tell me notes over the phone. And then the other is Source Connect, which is a recording platform. And this the singer that I'm currently producing from Massachusetts, Merritt Gibson, is an artist who I've never met. I've only spoken on the phone with her and her parents, and we've only video chatted. Yet we've done this entire production with live guitars and live drums and, like everything that you would normally do in a big production, maybe in the room together, but definitely not something that you would do 100% remote. But this particular project is the first time that I've started a project basically from zero. And we're now getting to a place we're getting close to finishing the record after 2 weeks of recording. And I'm even controlling her Pro Tools rig remotely. MIDI control through the internet. I'm starting her Pro Tools rig, putting her into record, and producing her through Skype and Zoom while I'm bringing her vocal in to my Pro Tools rig from 1,000 miles away.
See, that's great. That right there, I don't even know if anybody can even. I mean, are you guys so people can see it? Because
so we're putting together a little documentary about like how you could, in the middle of this quarantine, like how you operate, and it works, Chuck. I mean, they have this like software, I guess, that Source developed called Q, and what Q basically does is after you do your vocal take, which is like an MP3, it's stitches it together on the other side back to you through the internet and turns it into a full bandwidth.
Somebody has some incredible.
And I mean, this stuff was around, and they were getting like no attention, and then like COVID happened, and now like Source is just up because everybody needs this.
Yeah, but I guess that was where I was coming. It's like, this is the time to get innovative. You know what I mean? This is the time to like, I know but right now all bets are off. You have to kind of the way it's working now. How are people getting things now? How are people being entertained now? You can't worry about what we don't have. You just got to do it the way that it's being done now.
Yeah,
because everybody's spending time on their phone. Trying to stay sane. You know what I'm saying? So this is a perfect time to come through with something. I can't speak for what it is, but this is that time to think about what keeps people entertained.
Yeah, exactly.
And still networking. Always trying to network. And be more than just a network to somebody. Be a friend. Be something where they can benefit from you more than you can benefit from them. Because those are the things that matter.
Do you find that like the whole attitude and ethos has shifted away the glitz and the influencers into much more of a real human kind of like I'm gonna help my neighbor out kind of vibe?
I mean, this particular situation forces you a little bit more, on your mind, because in a matter of days, nothing's important but the friends you have.
Yeah.
You can't call
It's
your
so
car.
True.
Your car. I mean, you can sit in it. You know what I'm saying? But what good is that doing for your, for a long term? So this is pushing for more reality things. Like a lot of lives and a lot of the DJs, they're not playing the basic music that they were playing. They're starting to dig back and catch vibes. It's more of a vibe session. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it's going to bring. It's no way possible for when this thing is, what I'm saying, so-called under control, that we go back into the world and be the exact we were.
No, never. It's never going to be the same.
You're going to be on your head because nobody's dealing with that vibe no more. He's trying to elevate. And, even though it's a bad situation, I just feel like everything is being healed right now, It's not as many cars on the road,
There's not as much. Did you see the photos of Los Angeles? It's crazy.
Yeah.
Like in 3 weeks, it's gone from like you almost can't see the buildings to like there's clear skies. I mean, if there was ever a silver lining, the silver lining is that if everybody in the world started working more rather than flying and driving every day, we might actually be able to address the climate crisis.
And then
which has been dwarfed by the virus. The virus has dwarfed everything. It's dwarfed the entertainment business, it's dwarfed the news media. it's dwarfed climate change. You know, like even like the protests that were happening are protests.
Yeah.
There's no way to protest. There's no way for people to get together, and we will get together again. But in the news reports that I'm seeing is that like Live Nation is booking things for September of 2021.
Yeah, I heard about that. That they're saying that, you know, concerts really won't even really be considered until around that time, fall of 2021. You know, so I mean, I followed a lot of different places. I've been following China for a minute, and
Yeah.
I'm looking at how they're just finally getting back into somewhat of a society thing, but they've been dealing with this since last year.
Yeah, since November.
So I don't
exactly.
really understand what's happening. You know what I'm saying? That we really practice a lot of things. Like I've been practicing fasting a little bit because you have to try to maintain, you know, during all this stuff. We don't know how far anything is going to last. So, you know, you want to practice certain things just to be able to be prepared for what could happen, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it for me, it feels like my whole life has been geared so much to external routines, like phone calls that I get, questions that I get, jobs that I get, responsibilities that I have to deliver things to people. And especially when I was sick, you know, I realized that like I didn't have any responsibility to anyone. I was just on my own routine. So if I'm on my own routine, what am I going to do with my day? And people are fasting. People are exercising, people are doing yoga, people are trying to be healthy, people are trying to be mindful.
Because
we never really had any time for being mindful before. We were too busy. Thank you so much, Chucky, for like coming on short notice and being the most amazing guest I could have even thought of.
Come on, Bob. Anything for you, bro. You listen, it's your energy, man, that brought me here, man. So I appreciate you. Yes, sir.
I really want to get together with you offline and share with you some of these discoveries that I've made that I think would be enormously helpful to you for your you know your sessions and etc.
Yeah,
and I'm just I'm so excited to collaborate with you again as soon as possible.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate it, brother. I'm loving the fuzzy in the back too, man. I'm loving all that.
Yeah, that's Jackson is the producer of the show. He's a technical genius also a great comedian. And
Jackson, I feel left out, man.
Jackson can give you the blur too, man. Don't worry.
Get me blurred up back here, Jack.
Well, listen, thank you so much, Chucky. It was really, really great. Thanks for everybody who tuned in today. If you have any questions after the show that you want to submit, we'll definitely put them up on the Facebook page. And
my Instagram is at ChuckLife365.
At ChuckLife 365. My Instagram is at
me, come laugh with me. I post some funny stuff, man. Come holler at me.
Yeah, I have seen some of your posts are amazing. I'm also at Bassy Bob as well on Instagram. Hit us up, send us questions, send us love, and we'll see you soon.
Let me know if I've done something wrong. You don't treat me the same no more. Should've changed from good to poor. Your moms don't speak no more. Let me know if you don't want me no more. I grab my things and straight hit the door. Never hear from a secret no more. Ain't no excuses. How we gon' do this? There's nothing to it. Just be on some real shit. Cause I understand it. If that's how you want it. All you gotta do is let me know, baby. yeah. Baby, let me know what's going on. Things ain't the same, no. No, no, no. Let me know. Baby, let me know what's going on. Things ain't the same, no, no. I've never seen you this way before. I thought we talked about this from the jump. I thought you loved me, I guess I was wrong. Our relationship is gone out the door. So stop running, girl, let me know. I can find me another call. And there's one thing that's for sure. I can take this here no more. Ooh. Baby, let me know what's going on. Things ain't the same, no, no, no. Baby, let me know what's going on. Things ain't the same no more. Baby, let me know. I can't take this no more. No, no. Baby, let me know. I can't take this no more. Let me. I said, baby, let me know. Said, baby, let me. I said, baby, let me know. Said, baby, let me. I said, baby, let me know. Oh, baby, let me. I said, baby, let me know. I said, baby, let me. I said, baby, let me know. Baby, let me know. Baby, let me know. Baby, let me. I can't take this. Oh, no, no, no. Baby, let me know. Baby,